Well, good morning. This is David R. Becker with David's demo, right? On Sunday demo with David. And I know you're all sleeping still because we had to set the clock ahead an hour. And so I'm just really almost not awake. But here we are, and we're going to be doing this boat scene that I'm really excited about. I love doing boats, I love doing water, and this one has a lot of grays in it. So I'm really looking forward to this one. And so let's just get right down to it. And first, let me tell you about my website. So my website's up and running, and that's where you can actually now get my Sunday demo with David's pictures. Like if you do want to try this one, this is not a paint along, but if you want to try it, there it is. There's a picture. Just click on it, and it'll come up like this. It'll go big, and then download the image, or actually I would say right-click the image, and then just download it. It still comes out, I notice, as a web file, but I'm trying to figure that out and see how it can come out as a JPEG, and so we'll figure that out hopefully soon. All right, thanks. Let's go back to our tabletop and get started here. And so, like I said, I do love the grays in this picture. A lot of grays, a lot of subtle grays of warmth and subtle grays of cool, right? And so we're going to really look into this. I've never done one really grayish like this, and so I really want to work on the beautiful grays. And let's see who's here. Is there anybody here? Oh, we have one person, I think. And so thank you for stopping by. You're awake. Thanks. Thanks. Yeah, I was looking at my clock. I'm like, really? It's time to get up already? So I cut my head a clock yesterday night before I went to bed. All right, so here we go. And so we're going to take and we are going to start with the lights, of course, which are the background in the sky. And so I'm going to paint all the way through my boat, and I'm just going to wet the whole paper all on top here. I'm just going to wet it and get it all ready to go. And because I'm doing a really beautiful sky, I mean, that's the thing about this picture is the sky. Look at the sky, how beautiful it is. It's just the light blues and then the warm yellows. And we're just going to the side of the boat, put a little bit on the side of the boat. Yeah, I would love to be out there really early in the morning sometime, or in the evening too. There, sometimes people that ask me what's the difference, and there really is not that much difference. Though, like in the morning when you're out there, it just gets lighter, and as in the evening it gets darker when you're painting plein air. So it's really fast time that it changes. Within 15 minutes you get a whole different scene when the sun is just first coming up. And it changes constantly. So when you're out there painting it, I like to take a bunch of photos while it's coming up, and then I pretty much get the sketching in before, and so a lot of times you have to come back the day before, or just come and do the sketching of it first, and then know what some of the things are going to be, so you predetermine some of the values and get the value study and like that. So once you get going, then you can just start going and do what you normally do, and stuff. So it just takes really fast. It goes really fast, the time, when you're plein air painting something like this. But when you're inside, it's all the time in the world. So I'm going to take some yellowish. I'm using a full palette. I'm not doing into 3-color like I do for my paint-alongs. So this, we're just going to kind of go in here and keep this part white. And then just go from a nice yellow, grayish yellow. And to make those yellows gray, I take violet lavender, so that it's not so bright. And then you just take a little bit of lavender, and it just cools down the yellow a little bit. Because if you use the really bright yellow, it can look like that sometimes. But in the morning, it's more lavender, it seems like. I'd asked Karl Bretsky that about that, and he basically said that there's really no difference because it is the sun going through atmosphere. In the morning, sometimes there's not as much atmosphere, so it's a little bit brighter. Taking a little bit of this jaune number 2, because it's a little bit of flesh tone, but it's, you know, the clouds are a little yellow, but there's a lot of lavender in there. So first I get all the kind of warm parts, and then I'm going to go in with the blue parts later, with the darker parts. And see, when you have like really bright orange, see, there's not really bright colors in here. It's just very subtle, very subtle. And I'm going to really try to do that, the subtleness to it. So I'm taking lavender, a little bit thicker now, and going to put them in there. And lavender and yellow are complements, so it's going to grade up automatically by itself. So it's a great combination, lavender. And I get my lavender from Holbein. It does have white in it, but the way I'm using it, wet into wet like this, you can take a long time and just let it bleed together. Let the colors bleed to get themselves together. And I am also going to use some composed blue, which is a purpley blue, and kind of put that in there. And it's not going to make a green, as it's going to. It's too gray a blue and a too gray a yellow that I started with. And if you have questions, please let me know. Let me see who's else still here. Anybody still coming in? All right, some of you woke up, right? Good morning. I'm watching from Florida. We got 2 people from Florida. Thanks, Maria and Rebecca. Yeah, this year I didn't get a chance to come down to Florida. I just saw they had a big plein air fest down there, but I entered it too late. I didn't know about it, and there's near the east coast of Florida, they have one called the Lighthouse, and it seems like a nice thing. They had I just saw on YouTube or on Facebook that a bunch of them had done their plein air painting there. And they just got done, I think, this weekend. So I'm just working slowly, but I'm going to have to wet it here because it's starting to dry. So I'm taking my mister, real quickly go over it so it's nice and wet still. Not too much of a spray because then you're going to soak it too much. Just enough so they can keep on going. I'm just working it, letting the pigment float. And drawing in the clouds, and I noticed that I don't put enough pigment down sometimes, and it's not dark enough. So make sure you have it dark enough, and before you leave that area, just keep it going. Just keep the. I'm gonna put a little bit of this blue in there now because I'm gonna do a big area of blue, just so that I can regulate this side with that side. This side's a little bit more blue. And this is all wet, so it's all going to be floating. And what does that mean? That you're basically taking pigment in a puddle of water, you're floating it, and you can regulate how dark it is by how much pigment you put down. Now it's going to usually dry 20% lighter because of the water leaving the paper and drying up, and then whatever pigment you have left, that's what you're going to see. Now this boat is all going to be dark, except for the side here a little bit, so I'm going to go right into that. And I try to get close to what I see. You try to get a little close, but you don't have to get exactly what you see. You see, I'm just rubbing it in the water and letting the water soften it up. And I try to, once I have it wet like this, I try to keep away from putting too much water in my brush. People tend to put way too much water in their brush when they're doing this. And then what happens is that it just splads out all over the place, and you never really control the water or the pigment. The pigment controls the water, by the way. So you just work enough pigment in there so you can control the water. And these are my lights, though some of the clouds are a little bit darker. So yes, I am getting a little bit darker with the clouds. Putting a little orange in there now, brilliant orange. Because this up here is a little bit more warm, and that's how you get to the cool side. And then there's those dark waves. Dark clouds. I'm using composed blue with lavender to get some of these dark gray clouds. I don't use black to get my gray, I just use complements. And then I just either go towards the blue. If I do want to go to like a little bit more darker, then I can use a little bit of black just to darken it and gray it up a little bit. I try to keep the violet, a little more violet, and the yellow will make it gray and dull. I'm trying to keep some of the white of the paper too. And I know that it's wet, so I know that it's going to bleed and blend really nicely by itself. I don't have to, I can just let it, put it down, and it's just going to bleed up and soften itself up. Hello, Beth from South Carolina, and Vivian. Thanks a lot for coming by. Like I said, you guys can try this one. It's not a paint along, but now I have the picture up there on my website at davidrbecker.com. And if it's giving you a warning right now that it's not secure, make sure you type in HTTPS, and it's supposed to switch over. And we're still looking into that, but hopefully just make sure you type in HTTPS, and then those two slashes, and it's supposed to do that by itself, but sometimes some people have been saying that it hasn't been switching over, so we're looking into that, and hopefully they'll get resolved pretty soon. Just put an S right in front of the HTTP. Just put an S there, and you'll be good. And this is looking a little bit too green here, so because I put a lot of bluish color in there instead of violet, so I'm just going to put a little bit more lavender in there and violet. Which one's my violet color? Is this my violet? Yeah, there's my violet. A little bit more violet in the gray, and that'll give it a little bit more. Get away from the green. I could have used a little bit more pink too, like a little bit more pink in parts of this to make it warm. And again, I'm still watching it. I'm still watching how if it's wet enough. And then I actually mixed some gray and gray. This is gray and gray, which is actually a light gray. So I don't mind using some of that too. It's a little bit opaque, but what you do is you make sure there's water in there. Water is nice and floaty, and then just float away. And you can even use some of this blue. No, that'll make it green, right? That'll make it a little bit too green. I'll make more purple and blue. Get my darker purple to darken this part up a little bit. Make sure your brush is not too wet. I see a lot of people making their brush always way too wet. Pick up pure pigment and don't pre-wet your thing. You have big piles of water in your palette because you need pure pigment sometimes. And by putting a bunch of water in there to loosen them up, so put fresh paint or buy Holbein, because Holbein never dries out, so you don't have to worry about that part where you're. It's like a hard rock. You need fresh pigment. You need a lot of pigment sometimes to go in there. And that's the only reason I tell my students that, Holbein is great, because you're never going to waste any paint either. It's always going to be there. It's going to be perfect for you. Otherwise, put in fresh paint. That works the same too. Put in fresh paint. You got to be able to pick up a lot of pigment sometimes and create that edge that you want in the wet wash. And I'm going to pull out here a little bit. I'm going to take my brush, dry it up, and watch it. See, I'm just going to take that up a little bit. Put a little light area, then put a little water back in there, because I just took the water out, and so I got to put the water and the pigment back in, but just lighter. And if you get a watermark in the sky, like where it gets too light, and then that's actually not too bad. Why is it? Okay, there we go. Getting too light. My camera's like picking up way too much light. Let's do this here a little bit. So you can pull out some paint. Pull out a little paint here and there. And as long as it's still wet, just pull out the paint and put water back in there. And that'll be fine. Make it a little gray. Yeah, fishing boats, like, because there's a lot of stuff on there, but look at how the fishing boat's there, and, you know, just trace it if you have to, so that you get the right drawing. But look at the sky is going right through all this stuff, right? And you can make it any kind of sky you want. I just happen to make it like I want it to be looking with this grays. I'm just really looking about grays today. Alright, so that's my lights area. And go right down into the water. Water, I'm going to make a little bit more of this yellow again. And leave it really light right there. Right down there, I'm going to leave it light. If you can keep your brush the same wetness as the surface, you're just pushing pigment around then. Like if it's a certain wetness, then you just, you go in there and push pigment around. Now the boat goes from a light to a dark, so why is my camera constantly changing? Look at how light that is. I'm gonna shade it with my body here. Okay, so let's get a little bit of light on the edge of the boat, which will be right here. There's a little bit of lightness to there, right? And so this is dry. The boat's dry now, and so I'm wetting it as they go along. I call that wetting as you go along. I can go right down into the pier here, just making that light, and then it goes from a light, and then right away it kind of hits and goes to a dark. So get the side of there, just hitting at the side of the boat. The sun is kind of like right behind there, and so it's just shining on the edge. And now I'm going to go to a nice color like the sky, because it's pretty much the same as the sky. So I'm going to put the light parts in first, the white parts of the boat. And I'm going to use the same colors I used in the sky, because white on a boat would be the same as the sky. And it's darker, but not really, really dark. It's not super, super dark. Good morning, Mel. And then let these float together. This light and the dark, you can just float that together. Nice even wash there. And this is the light part still. I'm still putting in the lights first. The Becker Art 3 step is always the lights and color first. And then the second step, step 2, will be the large mediums and darks, which is kind of what I'm doing now. These are mediums and darks, but even the mediums I'm putting in by itself first. And then I'll put dark right on top of that when it dries a little bit. Maybe it should be a little bit darker. Take some of these blues. How do you gray a blue? Orange, right? So just any kind of orange, grays it up. And then if it's green, if you have more of a red orange, then maybe put a little bit more red in there to dull it down. It's like if your orange is more of a yellow red, it's going to be with the blue, it's going to turn a little bit too green. So if you want a little more red orange, just put more red in it. And so what was I doing with this color? Why was I mixing this color? Oh, I want to make this a little bit darker. A little bit grayer. Bring it right down into the bottom here now. And instead of ropes that I put all around everywhere, I put more like fishing that's laying around. So I'm wetting this whole front now. And see how it's big, simple washes? It's not a bunch of little washes. It's a big wash, so it's pretty easy once you learn how to do wet into wet and float your pigment. I just make sure I go at the edge of the boat, and then later on I'll make it darker and I'll do more detailed. That's step 3 when I go in there with the details. Right now I'm just getting the big medium washes. This is a big medium wash. The bottom of the boat is pretty much orangey red, kind of turquoisey. Not turquoisey, terracotta-like. So I put a little bit of terracotta in there. And these are going to be real dark, and so I can just put any color there I want. And bring this over here a little bit. And then these fishing nets I'm going to make a little bit colorful too on the top. I'm just going to make them like blue. Over here they should be warmer though, because the sun is right there, and so they'll hit a little bit warmer. I mean, you can do this kind of wash, right? I mean, if the drawing is there, and if you can't get a drawing, trace it. And then now you're doing big parts. You're just doing big parts. Everybody can do a sky, right? The skies are easy because you're doing big areas, and you're doing wet into wet, and you're getting soft edges. So then we go like this. Get shadows from this guy. This guy, we're putting that right away in there. Put shadows in there. We don't do detail yet. We do big parts, and yes, if there's a hard edge that makes a kind of detail, then yeah, go ahead to put that in there. But right now, you're just doing big parts. Big parts. Large to small. Large to small. There's a net that comes up here. And this is dry, so look at how I put my brush across it quickly. So it kind of looks like a net then, because you're just going quickly. Again, this is a medium, and I haven't gotten to my darks yet. I haven't gotten to those darks yet. I'm not sure what this color should be. Should it be? Yeah, this could be a little bit darker. Still all wet. See, it's all wet, so it's going to give me all these beautiful soft edges. And right there is going to be my white. My only white is going to be right through that part where the sun is shining across that thing. Alright, I think we're almost ready for my darks. Blue and orange can also make brown. Well, now I just add a red to it, mix it violet. Still getting some of my soft edges in there. If you want a hard edge and texture, then you have to wait for it to dry. But I'm just getting my soft edges, which is wet into wet. See, everything's soft and smooth and out of focus. Some of the things, that's great. Now the camera doesn't know what to pick up because it looks like the lighting is really right here. So every time I put my hand over here and kind of, you see how it kind of dulls it down a little bit. Now one light, it just seems like it's pushing the camera to be too light. Alright, so I really should probably wait for it to dry here now. Let me really quickly take a hair dryer because I think I need to have this dry now. But I'm going to go with my darks now. I mean, that's my big middle tones, big darks. Back here, let me just do that really quickly. I'll do my background with my half-inch brush. Oh my God, it's hard as a rock. What, did I not clean that one? Yeah, Beth, yeah, the light of the boat, because it's white, right? And the sky would be kind of blue, but white also because the sun is white. So then they just make those the same, and it just makes it look like a white boat, and it's in shadow. Because really, if you squint your eye at this photo, everything except for the sky is dark. The sky is light, the boat is dark. Even though it's a white boat, it's in shadow. So so you pick the darkest parts of your sky, and that would be the shadow of the boat. Maybe make it just slightly darker than that too, because then it'll look like that's white, basically. All right, let me do this back here. And so for back there, I'm going to get it warm because the sun's back there, and my foreground is cool. My background is going to be warm, and so I'm going to take a little bit warm violet, a little bit of pink, and just put this these buildings back here and stuff. I'm just going to put them in there really quickly. Really light too, more of a tint than a wash. Wash, I feel, is a lot of pigment, and a tint is a small amount of pigment. And he is going to be silhouetted, so I can go right through him. Not worry about him. Like, he isn't there yet. There's this little crane on there. There's a bunch of antennas or something. That's far distance, right? That's far distance, and I don't want to make it too dark, so I'm going to make it light. Maybe right there could be really light, so it looks like it's burned out. Optical scatter. And then there's going to be Poe, and he'll be really dark, and then this will be the netting. So while I have this in my brush, I might as well put a few little lines in the netting. And then sometimes those netting has little bobbers on them that hold them up or something, so I'll put those in there later. All right, this is dry enough. And so now let's do our darks, dark detailed darks. And I'm going to go in there and let's see. It's a lot of black and gray and warm black and gray. I'm just going to start out with black, put it down here. I could go with my nightfall colors that I had used before, the nightfall colors that Holbein makes. There's 5 of them. Those are fun because they separate between color and darks. But I can mix that too, like by just mixing a nice dark color. Let's just start right here. What the heck? Oh, that's way too wet. I can't do that. All right, let's go over here. That's too wet too. All right, so you have to watch out where you're putting your darks. I want them hard edged, so I can't do them while they're dry, while they're wet. So let's just start right here. I'll go from left to right. Put this little tire across there. I know that's a really dark to start out that dark right there, but that's okay. Put a little light on the one side of it. I hear the train coming in. I'm sorry I had to get up so early with the hour change, but that's the way it is. I do need to take a drink of coffee here, guys. Sorry. Okay. I'm just stalling for time because this stuff is all wet, and so I need it to be dry to go to this next part. So let's start on top here because that seems a little bit drier. And for that I'm using solid black. And I'm going to add a warmth to it because it seems like it's warm on top there. So I'm going to add a alizarin crimson to my black. And maybe some blues to make it kind of purpley. Now this is a really dark, but I want that really dark. And it's almost pure pigment. My brush is a little bit wet too. And I know this is fine detail, not large details. But my other side is too wet, so we're just going to go right into this part, which I'm going to have to do anyways later, so why not just do it right now. And this, if you know anything about boats, and just make sure you know a lot about what you're painting. So go out there, take a lot of pictures of that boat, figure out boats. I've painted so many boats in my life. I worked at a marina. I love painting boats. I'm kind of missing that I can't go to Maryland this year. I wasn't invited, or I didn't get in. I didn't get juried in, because in Maryland they have a lot of boat builders there, and in Easton, and boy, that was fun last year to see all these boat builder places, these yards of boats, and you can take some of this too if you don't totally know everything about this. And this is probably a not completely correct either, because it's an AI picture of this. And so here I'm just going down and getting all these lines. And if you're gonna wait for your rigger brush to get the really fine lines, or put them in with a colored pencil or watercolor pencil, you can do that too. Some people ask me all the time, how do I get them really fine? Just take a watercolor pencil. You don't have to get a brush either. You can sometimes take the watercolor pencil, or take a ruler and run your bristles along the ruler to get the fineness of it. Look at, I even put my brush is just so loaded with this color. I don't really have to go back in and get any more of it. And then you notice I'm getting all the big parts. That should have used a ruler on that one. That's terrible. That's a terrible line. Where's my ruler? Oh, here it is. So use a ruler like this, and it sits up above the paper a little bit. So you just rest it on the paper, and then I just put the bristles along it, and it'll just give me a much nicer line. And that's for big lines. The little ones I'll do like this one right here. Let's see, that goes from here to here, so I'm just going to take that. And it's up, so I don't have to, it's not next to the paper, it's way up above the paper when I'm putting that in, so. And the little things that you can just do by hand. And again, why am I doing these little things, this details? Because this part is still wet, and until that dries, I want to get some of this stuff done. Why not? And there's so much stuff. I mean, look at all this stuff in there. So later on, I'll go in with my smaller brush and get those things too. Now I'm going to come to the rooftop here, get that in there. And if you want to change the color of your darks, just go in there and grab some dark colors and put them into the black, and then that'll make it your colors nice and dark. I'm going to use my bigger brush now to get the windows. And actually all this junk that's in the bottom here, there's a lot of stuff going on here that's all dark, and so right above here, it's still wet. Don't go in when it's wet. I keep on telling you, don't go in when it's wet. If you want a hard edge, wait for it to dry. But I'm gonna go put some of this stuff in here. See how it's wet it is? It's floating out. So it doesn't matter if you're if you have a lot of pigment, if the surface is wet, you're going to get a soft edge. That's just the way it is. And that's like I keep on telling everybody, if you want a soft edge, just wet the surface. Wet the surface. You get a nice, beautiful, soft edge. A lot of floating of pigment. And that's a good thing. Maybe down here I want it to float a little bit, so I'm going to take this really dark and come in here and show the side of the boat. Well, it's dry enough. See, I'm getting a little bit of the... And for some of the ropes and stuff, you could always put in the rope with masking fluid at first or later on with opaques. Hello, Sherry from Indiana. To get the highlight on the post with the tire, did you add color or lift off the color? I put in color. Right into the dark, but only when it's wet. I don't put it in while it's dry, because then that's opaque. Then it'd be like putting in a thick amount of paint to make it look like a gouache or acrylic. Now this, I'm just going to go in here with my darks. And I wet this as I go along. Like this is going to be darker, but I'm going to wet it later. But first I'm getting the big hard edges that I want to keep. And then I'll go add more and more water and pigment to that area. See, like now it's wet. Now I can manipulate the color. I can manipulate the wash to make it lighter, darker. You know, it's always nice when your paper is wet and you want to get a soft edge. But first get the hard edges and then go in, and now watch this. I'm just going to go in there, make that a little bit darker and wet it, because wetness will soften that edge. And then I just manipulate the amount of bleed with the amount of pigment I put in there. That's what we've been talking about for the paint along these last couple of weeks, is how to control that wash when it's wet. And this means more pigment. Get more pigment in there, and it'll just bleed right into there and make it nice and soft. And how much pigment you have in your brush all determines how far that's going to bleed. And now this paper is wet. It was still damp, and so you're going to get these damp marks. But that's okay too. I'm just going to rub that out right here. And I do have to wait for that, because look at what happened there. You know, it's soft. It's a soft edge because I didn't let it dry. And there's a bunch of stuff happening here that I don't even know what they are, so I just, and that's fine. You don't need to know what everything is. Just get the big parts. Let's do this front here, because that is not so important, like as the boat is. And I put a couple of little things here too to make it look a little bit more marine-like with these posts. I put a post here. This side of the boat is also going to be dark and stuff, but again, it's still too wet. Such an interesting subject, evocative of work of some of our ancestors, maybe. Thank you. Let's bring this down a little bit so we can see what you guys are talking about. And if I don't answer your question, sometimes I will go back later and look at this, and or ask it again in the comments when it's done. All right, bring this back up here. All right, so let's go into parts that are dry. This is definitely dry now, and I'm gonna put the ropes in later, but this part here, I'm just gonna put a little line there to indicate a rope. Then there's a rope laying around on the floor here. And then the wood itself is darker, so I'm gonna use my bigger brush, go across this, make this dark, a dark brownish gray, and I'm gonna take black, take some orange. Orange and black makes a bright, nice gray too. I'm going across it quickly because now this is dry and I can capture texture from the paper by going across it quickly. And this, instead of ropes like in the picture, I'm making more of the netting. Maybe some of this board is wet, so that I'm going to get reflections that are straight down. And so some of this light blue that I had in there, I'll put that down here, like it's damp and wet. The pier, if the pier is damp and wet, it's going to reflect. Anytime something is wet, it means it's reflecting. It's reflecting, and that means that you do like water, and it's all the colors around it, and it's like a mirror. It'll act like a mirror when it's reflective. And look at all the junk laying on the ground here, and so I'm just going to be putting junk there. I'm just putting a lot of lines, and this is being netting. And so the netting is actually lighter than the ropes. They have ropes there, a ton of ropes. And too many ropes, I thought, and so I thought, let's make it netting instead. All the places I've been to, all the marinas I've been to, you know, it's so funny how much netting you see laying around. If it's fishing boats, it all depends on what the boat is, you know. And we get some darks here. This part of the boat will still be. Gosh, where's my heater? All right, since the guy is dry enough right now, I'm just gonna put the guy in right now. He's dry, so I'm just gonna put like a nice red hat on him. And he's silhouetted, so you can put a little color in him, but the outer edge of him is what's important. And I am at my detail stage, so is it big detail or small detail? That doesn't matter. Just put in the details. It's all good. And since you won't be doing it as a demonstration, you can take your time, let things dry. Just put this in here a little bit. Make it a little bit darker side. This is the light side, right? Everything on this side will be lighter. This part is all dark. This is really dark right there. Put a little lavender in there. Get rid of that soft edging that I had there. I don't need a soft edging. I need hard edging here. And it's finally dry. The door back here that's nice and dark. When you put your darks in, put them in. You know, don't put a tint of color and just build on that tint. Put in a lot of color and just get it wet, and it can still float some of the pigment if you want texture in this guy's shirt, then I would go across it quickly, but I don't, so I'm just going to go in there. He's holding put in the pants. He's silhouetted, so I just need to get him silhouetted first. Later I can put colors on top of him too, if I feel I need to have him more colorful. He's probably got yellow boots on, right? He's probably got yellow boots. Maybe even a yellow jacket. So that where would you put the yellow? On the edges, right? You don't see it because he's silhouetted, so you only see the edge to be lit up a little bit. Good morning from New York City. Hello, Helen. It's amazing how much you can do in 30 minutes. Looks great. Oh, thanks. How much is that much time I did already? Oh, we got 20 minutes left. So we'll get it done. All right. So now this is dry. Finally, I can finally get the bottom of my boat done, or my side of the boat. This is the most important part right here. So I wanted to make sure that it's all nice and dry, and so I can get in there and get some really nice detail. And I'm going to make those pillars a little bit warmer because they're right across the sun. The sun is right here, so I'm just going to take this little railing and make it orange because the sun is right there, so it's going to just hit that railing really. It's going to hit that color, give it some color. So something right behind the sun will be warm, be very, very warm. The sun just makes it look very, very warm. So I just take my small round brush and I just do the lines warm. It's not wet enough. Let's take our rigger brush. The rigger brush, of course, is that one with the very, very thin. And I'll make all these lines a little bit warm because the sun is hitting them. It doesn't make it as dark, but it does make it look like the sun is right there and it's hitting them a little bit. And here I'm just adding just details, super fine details, but not so much that I'm making sure I get exactly what's on the boat, what I see. I'm just getting the lines in there. If it's a railing, yeah, I would try to do a railing here. But I don't count the number of railings, I just make it look like a bunch of stuff. Here, there's going to be windows. It's fun to put a lot of stuff in there that you don't know what it is. Basically, it's just a bunch of junk on the back here. So I basically just put lines, either rectangular lines, round lines. Maybe there's a life ring there. Still gotta do that big part. So that's gonna be terracotta, a little bit of terracotta, and lighter as I go over here, and darker as I go over here. And now I watch how I wet it. I wet it with water, of course, and then I just put water in there, get my hard edge where I need my hard edges. And then if I feel it has to be darker, then I go in, pick up a little bit darker color, throw it into the water, and then just manipulate things. Manipulate it while it's wet. Manipulate the amount of pigment so that you can make it look either lighter or darker. You can pull stuff out, push stuff in. Like on the edge here, it's a little bit lighter, so I'm going to go with a lighter orange. And it goes back, see how it gets lighter? And then there's all these shadows on it across it. Look at that. I'm going to make them orange. And there could be even lines running down it. So. And what else is there? There's some boards you can see coming back. So I'm just going to do little lines coming back. And those you can wait until it dries again and get those in really, really well. And there's one line right here for the boat. There's a line right here. And then there's the lettering, the numbers. I don't like to make them readable. I like the numbers to be just like they're there, but you don't know exactly what it says or the numbers, because I don't want you to read that unless it's the guy, whoever owns this boat, wanted you to paint it, and then go put that in there. But I like it more to be impressionistic of what is read there. And there's a line that goes down, a rigging line, and I can make it light with white paint. And that part is still wet. Look at that, it's still wet for a while there. And then back here, we're going to take our 1-inch brush. There's a couple of things that are dark here. I don't know exactly what all this stuff is over here, but it doesn't matter. Just get it close, and there's a bunch of writing here too. This side is still wet, so I can make it look soft edged too. So you can just make it soft edged. And then there's a really dark right here where this post is. I put a post in there. There's like something laying right here. In the fishing net, we're going to do a bunch of dark lines now. Let's do a bunch of dark lines in the fishing net. Little circles, just and lines. And see how nice and clean these washes are. I'm gonna want to dirty them up. I'm gonna spatter it probably, because I don't like a image like this that looks so clean. It's like, no, this is a dirty place. So why keep it so clean? So, netting. Get a really dark. Any questions? Such a useful comment. Appreciate the push-pull of pigment and water. Watching it in real time helps. Well, thanks, Beth. Thank you. You are such a good teacher. Everything you say is dead on. Well, thanks. I've been teaching quite many years. Almost too many. But I hope it helps to get you to be a better painter. And it's also helping. I do these in the morning, on Sunday morning, because I'm actually practicing. This is my practice time on Sunday morning, and I want to do something that is for me and not so much for the student. So I pick hard stuff, and I try to, like the grays and stuff. So the paint-alongs on Thursday night are a little bit easier, and they're made for more of the students. And we have a certain thing we're discussing, but this is for more. Sunday mornings are for me, and I'll be outside sometimes in the summer. I'll do some outside ones, and so it's just me practicing basically this morning. And I was really wanting to get a lot of the grays and figure out how to do grays. And actually, look at it, got more color than actually is out there. And these, look at the sun, or the sky is not quite as dark, and it doesn't show. This is light, but I can still wet that and go in there. But I don't think I will probably be doing that. But that's why it is. It's all practice, and so I may not get exactly what I want, but you're just trying. You gotta practice. There's no getting better by just listening, and so you guys are going to have to do some painting to get better. It's also nice to listen to demonstrations like this, but in the long run, you guys are doing it yourself. You got to go out there and just paint. That's all it is paint. Hours put in. And that's with everything, right? The hours you put into it. So just have fun with it. If it doesn't turn out, hey, that's the next one. That's going to get better. It just keeps on getting better and better. All right, let's put this over here. Another pole. It's not there in the picture, but I just want one in there because I've been to enough marinas to know like the piers and all the stuff that's hanging there. And I used to work for a marina when I was in high school. And it's fun. It was fun. I always was around water. I love water. And there's so many different kinds of boats. If you think about it, there's so many. Here, I'm going to put this rope. I'm just going to take opaque colors and just wrap it around there. And what else we got to do? Let's do some more lines. Let's take black. There's lines coming here. Coming down. See, if it's not wet enough, you get a texture, right? If it's not wet enough, or you go really too quick, then you get texture. If you want a real solid line, then you go slow, but don't stop. Just keep on going. Like here, there's ropes through here, and these are important. I mean, these, when you do a boat, you got to get all these wires in and these lines in there, because it just makes it look so neat when you get all the lines in there. that's what's so neat about these pictures, is that there's so much going on these boats. And just fake some of the stuff that you don't know about. Just fake it. That's okay. Just put a bunch of stuff in there. You got your big value pattern already worked out. The boat's dark, the background's light. So that's pretty much a given already. So we don't have to worry about that. Now I do notice that this light coming in here, this would be shadowing it down. So I'm just going to take some lavender and just shadow. Actually, some of the red, because the red's right there reflecting into the pier. Take some of that and just bring it straight down, and also make the pier look wet. In the morning, it would be damp. Like the pier would be damp because it's, the fog just probably lifted. So let's make it. And so this is all made up. There we go. So gotta keep the light right over here, and the light in the dark right there, so that it really shows it's wrapping around the boat. This probably could be a little darker, and I'm going to spatter it now a little bit because it's too clean for me. I want it to be nice and dark and dirty. And I like how the boat, like the sun looks like it's right around there, and it's really blasting around the boat. And so I'm going to take, let's see what brush I take. Let's take a round brush. I'm going to take a round brush, wet it really a lot, and I'm going to start spattering a little bit. Some warm tones. Actually, because I'm just going to tap it down for some of these, because look at on the boat, there's some, it's really a worn out boat. And I'm just going to take and put these terracotta colors, like rust. It's almost like rust, but this is not a, maybe it, well, I can't tell if it's a metal boat. It looks like a metal boat because there's stuff peeling off of it. And I'm just going to take it real quickly. Oops, that was too much. My brush was too wet, so I'm just going to dab that there a little bit and tap it a little bit to get some. Now I have to put seagulls up there because I put dots, and that's okay because you want seagulls, right? You want seagulls in a picture like this. See, I'm dirtying it up a little bit. I don't want it so clean. Mess it up a little bit. This boat is not a clean boat. And then I'm going to go with a really dark black, or Prussian blue. I'm taking a Prussian blue, and I'm going to make a really, really, really dark color, like Prussian blue. And I want to go in and do these hits of color that are really dark. They're almost void of color, and so that it just looks like it's way in there, and it's really deeply dark. Like right on the side of the boat. And it's in a wet wash. Like right here it's wet, so it's going to give it a soft edge. That's cool. And then I'm just going to do the boards like that, and the outer edge right there. So you can get all those beautiful little crevices and all those little lines that are super dark. Take your really dark colors. Don't have white in your brush though. Just take like a black, Prussian blue, your darkest colors, alizarin crimson. Take them and make it really dark, and then just do touches. Like little crevices and little lines underneath. And all this over here, now I'm going to get these nice little, really dark lines. And I don't just use black ever, I mix it with a color so that it's either warm or cool. And then I can... It just gives it that extra. How about the lines in the dock, the boards? See, all those little lines make it so realistic then. Watch out that you don't put too many in though. You don't want to go crazy with every detail. And if you're a hyper realistic painter, then yeah, you have to put that in there. But otherwise, I'm just going to put in the nice dark little highlights. They're like highlights, but they're dark highlights, I call them. Now the perspective would make it run this way a little bit, right? And then put it across the boards. And there will probably be a couple of pigeons on here, or seagulls, not pigeons, seagulls. So the seagulls are flying in the air, and so let's put a couple of them in there. And so I'll do like the wings. Sometimes little dots. Sometimes their wings are downwards, and then they got their head and then the tail. And sometimes they're just up and then down the wing. So I spattered, so I got a couple in there. But there should be, there's seagulls and stuff. And so here's a seagull sitting on this post right here. I'm just going to do like a teardrop. You put a teardrop there, and then you put his head up here. Sideways teardrop, and then the head on top, right? And put his leg. Something weird because the sun is hitting right there. It's just somehow coming around there and stuff, and you're not sure how that happens sometimes. And you can't put some of the rope highlights there. Now let's highlight some of these posts up here, because I remember I did it all black, but you can also put the little light things in there. And for that I'm using a gray on gray. It's actually gray color. And this is opaque now, so this would be not transparent. Let's put some more lines up here. There's a lot of lines going up here. A lot of stuff happening up here. Pigeons maybe sitting up there. Not pigeons. I keep on saying pigeons. But seagulls. And then you put little lines in here in the boat to make it less... Oh, that's the post. Remember, we forgot that post. So I'm going to take a little light on this side of the post. Just put it in there. Bring it down. Then, since this is looking a little wet, watch this. I'm going to take that guy. It's not in the photo, but I know when something's wet, I can take that dark and put it down here. That way I look like he's reflected into the pier on the bottom. So don't, you go with stuff that you know. Like I know docks and piers and marinas, and I've painted a lot of them. So take your knowledge and then put in these things that you know are there, but are not in the picture. That's why you want to paint things that you know and love, so that you can make stuff up. It's easy to make stuff up then. A couple windows here. A little dark there for that guy. All right, that he's kind of pictured down here is just a reflection in the pier. Same thing with that post. You can put it in the pier a little bit here. And I'm going to make this all a little bit darker down here. So I'm just going to take a big wash and just kind of give it a little texture, maybe. Wait, let's see if you guys question anything. Any questions, just let me know. And also, like I said, you can, after it's over and there's no more chat, you can go into the comments and then just put them there, and I will answer you back. How much more time? 1 more minute. Actually, I'm pretty much done. So... hope it's helped you when you're doing a complicated subject matter you think is complicated. Make it less complicated by just making your big areas and big washes first, and then little by little get more and more detailed to the end. And now it's just all detail. Put a little white, and I'm going to use that's the last thing. I'm going to hit the parts that are like right by the sun here. I'm just going to take some white, shoulder, boots, and here. Little dots of white, and maybe in the netting here. The netting, definitely. We can put a bunch of stuff. And this is opaque, so can't submit this to TWSA, Transparent Watercolor Society, because it's no longer transparent. I notice there's a little hit of white right here. And there we go. So thanks again for stopping by on a Sunday morning, an hour early than you normally would. That's what daylight saving time is, though, so we're going to have to deal with it. And so hopefully we'll see you on Thursday. And Thursdays, do I have Thursday's image up there yet? No, I do not. So we're not sure. I mean, next Thursday's image paint along, we're not sure yet. So I'll figure that out and come back on Tuesday to my website and you'll find out. All right, so we'll see you. Have a great rest of the weekend. And we'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye-bye.